This is Paul Whitley. Thank you for joining us on CEO Talks. We're here today with a character named Bryan Flanagan. Bryan owns a little company that he tries to train people on how to sell. He worked with Zig Ziglar for about 25 years, someone that we all know and appreciate. So we've asked him to come in and to give us some ideas of what you can do to help your business now, following the pandemic crisis that we've just gone through. So let's move on to that situation. You might let us know where you're calling in from or watching in from so that we can see you out there. Bryan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
When I got your title, I was going like, okay, sell your value. I'm going, okay, don't defend your price. How many of us know that we think that we have to have the lowest price to win the deal? But I loved your title.
Second title.
Timid salespeople have skinny kids. Well, you know, I've got a lot of clients that are paying attention to that situation. I've got a client that a year and a half ago, he was very excited about getting $1,000 an hour return for his work. And he's found now that he can get $2,000 an hour. He just has to give more information and in a different way. And he's not getting any pushback.
Yeah.
They go, wait a minute, I could have been charging $2,000 an hour a long time ago. Mm-hmm. So let me turn that over to you. What do you mean, sell your value, don't defend your price?
Yeah, Paul, one of the things I think we do, we have a tendency to overlook the fact that our product serves different people differently, and we have a tendency to sell what we like about the product and not what you would like about the product, because that's my comfort zone. My comfort zone is my functionality. So one of the things I tell people in our training classes, oftentimes we're offering somebody a glass of water and they don't know they're thirsty because we haven't found what they value and how to offer it or what to offer it, whether it be iced tea or granola, as we talked about earlier. So selling value is so much more important over the long term than selling price.
I like that booming voice. I think you've been speaking for a while. So
since I was one.
Since I hope so. Well, I agree with that. So many times in the businesses, you know, what we do at C-Suite, we try to help them with their finances, with banking relationships, with many different things. But we also look at the overall company and what they're doing and their value with their company. You know, what's that 1% improvement? That comes back into, I think, exactly what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So many times we get caught up in, we have a product, now let's tell them why they need it, before we go out and find out what they need and create the product to match what they want.
We have a tendency to know everything about our product except what it'll do for the other person. Exactly. And that's when you get $1,000 instead of $2,000.
That's correct. All right, your sales team's not your entire organization. Tell me about that.
Your sales team is not your entire organization, but your entire organization is your sales team, because there's not one person that can't cost you a deal. Mm-hmm. And what we fail to realize is that everybody in our organization needs to know our value proposition. It's not just the salespeople, the marketing people, but it's everybody throughout the entire organization, from the first line of defense, from receptionists down to warehouse people, to people that are picking and shipping. Everybody throughout the company needs to know that. And the tendency we have is not to understand that we need to train our people on this. We have a tendency to hire people from the outside that may have a past sales experience, but we've got to train them on what we do and how we do it. And I think that's one of the biggest problems. And during this pandemic, a lot of people have been pushed into sales, not their first choice. I'm not sure what everybody's major was here. I wanted to be a high school basketball coach in Louisiana.
You quit growing?
Now, but I love Louisiana. I don't want to live in Louisiana, but I do want to be buried there.
You'll float to the top. You got to be careful there.
No, if I'm buried there, I could continue to vote. But I was raised like everybody on this panel was raised. We were all, whether it be Missouri or Louisiana, we were all raised in the same way. Our moms told us, don't talk to strangers, don't ask people for money. So we go into sales. So there are a lot of people that are in selling that is counterintuitive. And they, like any other profession, they have to be trained.
Have you ever heard the expression that the salesperson is a prima donna? That he thinks he's special?
Every day. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that a lot of companies don't put themselves in the position of acceptance. If you don't have sales, you don't have revenue. If you don't have revenue, you don't have anything to operate with. And if you can't operate with that, you don't have anything to count. So you're back to the square one. So salespeople are very important. And while you need to keep them into the teamwork, you need to make sure that you appreciate what the salespeople do for you. And taking that one step further, and I'm going to turn this back to you on this thought. In the companies that I'm working with, I refer to everybody in the company as a salesperson. If you're in the accounting department, you're sales accounting. If you're in the merchandising department, you're sales merchandising.
Exactly.
So from my viewpoint, like you're saying, in my past, I've tried to put all of my departments to where they cross-worked. They would work in that person's shoes for some time every year, so that they understood what that person had to go through.
And I think
What are your thoughts?
I think selling is hard. If selling were easy, sales managers would still be doing it. So selling is a hard profession because it's not, although they're trying to make it with all these analytics and enablement, they're trying to make it a science, it's still a craft. And you need to learn your craft.
Well, let me ask you, what are the biggest challenges you see right now in the companies recovering from the pandemic, trying to get their market share or improving their market share? What do they need to do?
I think we rely on technology too much. We train them on all the CRMs. We train them on all of this technology that we have a way of connecting with people and touching our prospects. But my question is, you have all of this, what do they say when they face the customer? When you put together a prospecting campaign and you have people that you're going to call on, what do you do once you get there? And I think that's where a lot of people are lacking the education and the training, because they don't know what to do once they get there. And I've made a living for the past many years in training people on the tactical side, from the soup to the nuts, not the strategy, but the blocking and tackling.
Okay, Bob, what do you think about companies that you work with?
Well, I think, there's always opportunities for each company to grow, but when you're working with like all the support resources like Paul was talking about, I think people generally do not see themselves as any part of sales, and yet all your customer relations can go down the tube with one bad response from, say, the finance department or anything like that. So how do you work with companies to try to help spread that philosophy?
One of the first things I try to do is take away the mystique of selling. And I work with a lot of licensed professionals. And these are people that don't want to be professional salespeople, but have to be professionals who can sell. So when they put that sales hat on for 2 hours a day or 2 hours a week, they better be good at it. They better understand it. So I think one of the things that I've seen is that they're focusing on their salespeople's training, but it's not necessarily understanding the customer and how our products and services best fit that customer. And the reason I say that is that, again, I was busy during the pandemic because a lot of people were forced into a different type of selling, and that was long distance. That was more virtual. Right. But the skills within that virtual climate, they still have to be attentive. I'm listening. I'm asking questions. The skills are the same. The delivery and the environment is different, but the skills have to be the same.
Oh, with that, I also want to just introduce you to Bob Fox. Bob is a CFO. He's with C-Suite Support. And Tabor is also with C-Suite Support, also a CFO. Our effort is to help companies do their financing, allow us to go in and help them get bank loans, financing loans, also turn that back around to get the KPIs to help that company. And technology is something we do drive and we look at because that's our scorecard of what we've done and how we've done it. Technology is a science. Selling is an art. And if you don't know the difference, then you're going to have a little bit of trouble trying to get there. So I wanted to bring those things around and put that on the table, because right now I'm seeing a lot of companies that trimmed their forces or made pivots to do something that they didn't do before. Mm-hmm. Now they're having to bring their teams back. Their culture is different. Mm-hmm. What do you think a company needs to do for culture to make sure that the sales are back in place?
We both have a kindred connection with Zig Ziglar. And Zig was one of the greats of connecting the person with the professional. And I think you need to build both. You need to build the person as well as the professional, because all of us have been impacted. Everybody in your company has been impacted by the last 12, 13 months. And sometimes we need some encouragement, and sometimes we need the education. So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. And I spent 14 years with the IBM Corporation selling typewriters and copiers, but IBM
Sounds exciting.
Well, it was exciting in those days. I mean, we had the only typewriter that took out the type boards, put that little ball in there, and the computer department called us the romance division, because we romance the secretaries and demonstrate this new product that everybody had typewriters. So it was a pretty good deal. And then when they gave me an $18 million quota in systems, I left and joined the Six Sigma Corporation. But there are two things that have to happen. You need to have your salespeople understand a couple of things. Number one, they need to learn their profession, then they need to respect their profession. And if your value proposition isn't toward helping people, helping companies grow, if it's solving problems only without the value of keeping people less stressed, allowing people to get home at night to see their kids, that's a great value proposition. So one of the things you have to teach them to learn that, and I keep learning my profession. As I said, I spent a number of years with Zig Ziglar, and Zig was a constant learner. He would come to meetings, he wasn't the speaker, he would come to the staff meetings, somebody would be speaking, an outsider, and Zig would be taking notes. Now here's a guy that wrote 32 books. We need to be taking notes of what he says, yet he knew that he could learn something. So learning your profession. And the second thing, you need to respect your profession.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
We all need coaches. That's one of the things that, whether we've got accountants that need coaches, or we have operations people that need coaches, or salespeople. Now it comes into one of my clients. They do sales. They do sales training, and they do so much sales training that they're involved with companies that need to hire salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we talked about it a little while back, and we decided that, well, that's a revenue vertical. Let's hire a recruiter. We hired a recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
That recruiter now has 3 recruiters reporting for her, and now that team, new vertical, didn't have it in 19. Last year, 40% of their business. Didn't exist before. That's the kind of thing we want to do, is try to help a company identify what they're doing, and is there something they can pivot and do something else with. But it comes back to that recruiter has to sell.
Yes.
She thinks she's a recruiter. We had to come back and kind of get a mindset that, yes, you're a recruiter, but if you don't have anybody buying or contracting or connecting to need somebody, we're not going to get as many. So we had the recruiter contact every client we had.
Everybody makes a living selling something.
That's right.
Whether it's on your business card or not. And I say that jokingly, everybody's in sales, only the successful ones admit it. But everybody's in sales. And when I got into sales, and my fraternity brothers were in law school or med school, we'd go back to functions on campus, and they'd say, "Flanagan, what are you doing?" "Well, with IBM." "But what do you do with IBM?" "Well," and I was embarrassed to say that. So I had to overcome that. I had to learn my profession.
Well, I have to admit, early in my career, when I was in a controller with a group running a plant, or part of the management team running a plant, I didn't look at the salespeople with the same eyes
With favorably.
You know, they always were the ones creating problems, the worst paper pushers in the group. You know, stuff didn't happen. Somewhere in there, when I had to go on a sales floor, put myself on a sales floor and had to do it, had to be eyeball to eyeball with that customer and sell a product or a service, all of a sudden it became different. It's like, you got to close this thing. If you get it closed, there's somebody else waiting over there to close again. Well, I'll get to that. Well, that's when I learned the process that, okay, I can sell, and
with
put
people,
from there.
Yeah, with people in my organization would say, well, selling is easy. I said, okay, we have a territory open. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Because selling is easy until you're given a quota. And then it becomes, ooh, we have to learn our profession. Yeah.
We do. Well, let me ask you, why should people contact Bryan Flanagan and work with you? What do you do to help them in their company to build out that sales team? And when you finish with them, Are they better than where they were? Are they getting more revenue? And why? How do you make them laugh?
First of all, my job is to make them more dangerous than they are right now. And I do that through a couple of ways. Number one, I'm a big believer that if I don't live it, I don't give it. And my practice of Flanagan Training Group is sales and presentation skills. Those are the two areas that I focus on. So I'm an active salesperson. Bob asked me prior to the telecast here, what are you doing? Well, I got a couple of meetings. I'm making sales calls. I'm writing proposals tonight. So I'm an active salesperson. I've got to practice what I preach or my wife will get after me. Secondly, I'm a big believer that selling should be fun. You should enjoy your profession. And selling has taken me literally around the world. Has allowed me to put my children in the college of their choice versus where I could scrape and save to send them. So selling is an honorable profession in my mind. And then I think the biggest thing I try to do is customize what you're looking for in your situations, your real world. I've got certain philosophies in selling that is focused. It's asking and listening. It's simple. It's asking and listening. But I need to do it in your environment. So I do a lot of research prior to going out and delivering our contractual training. I understand your environment, your objections, what you're up against, how you prospect, and then I model it and hopefully focus it on those specific areas.
Tabor, I know you're working with a couple of clients right now. You're involved in trying to close contracts with those clients. Tell me about how you approach getting sales done.
Really just understanding what that client needs and seeing where I can fit into that need and help them out.
Right.
But it's not just a matter of providing a service as much as it is working with them to better whatever they're doing.
Yeah, and that's very simple. What Tabor said, it's a communication process. We complicate the process. I'm a baseball fan, love baseball. I used to box. I had to stop boxing. My hands got injured. The referee kept stepping on them.
Is that what happened to your face too?
Yeah, and I didn't wear a helmet. In baseball, they asked Willie Mays, how do you play baseball? It's simple. They throw it, I hit it. They hit it, I catch it. And it's just that simple with selling. You ask and you listen. You ask and you listen. There's skills within that. But if you're trying to find out their needs versus just showing up and telling about the product, you'll be way ahead of the game. And you'll win more of the close ones.
Well, with companies having experienced what we've all done over the last 14 months, they're very cautious. They want to make sure that every dollar they spend has return. How are you able to convince people and then deliver on what you convince them of, sales, return on sales, and measure that?
Okay, I'm going to make a 3-question sales call on Bob. Okay, Bob,
right.
Here I come. Bob, the first 2 questions are easy. You don't have to answer them. They're rhetorical. So if you were a sales manager or a VP of sales, I would ask you rhetorically, where are your sales now, today? Where would you like them to be? And the third question is, when I ask that of people, most people say the sales are here, they like to be here, there's a gap. So my question would be, if I can help you close that gap faster than you're closing it now, what would be the bottom line benefit? And that's what I'm trying to find out.
Wait a minute, he didn't answer you.
Well, he doesn't know how to answer because Tabor usually answers for him. That's what you guys told me beforehand. But whatever his answer is, it's usually going to be, yeah, at least I'll be open to it. So what I want to do is put people in a position, look at the strategy, see what they're doing, how sales fits into that, what they're doing now, where they would like to be, and am I the best vehicle to get there? Mm-hmm. And if it's certain things that I don't do, I'm going to find a buddy that does it. I mean, you do the same thing. We network. That's how we came together. So I'm going to find out where you are, where you want to be. If I could be the vehicle to get you that area faster, better, quicker than you're going now, then I think we'll have a great relationship. But I can't say I've got a product that'll take you there unless I know where it is. And that's what you were asking when you talk about finding out their needs.
Expand a little bit on the fact that he's got a place he's got a place he wants to grow to. What is he doing, and how can you get into his mind and into his business and help him find ways that he's not already thought of to get from point A to point B?
Very specifically, where does the process break down? If you have a prospecting process, you have a connecting process, then you have some type of touch, you have to go out and connect. Hopefully you have a meeting. Where does the process break down? And I'm a big believer, that selling is a process, not an event. Selling is a process, not a personality. And when I thought selling was a personality, I didn't, well, it didn't mean I didn't sell anything. I did. I sold my furniture and I sold my car. But I was not successful as a salesperson because I was basing it on the personality. And I learned, unfortunately, a little bit time involved in learning this, that not everybody buys my personality. So once I got a process, where does a process break down? And you're going to tell me, Bob, we don't have a process. Or we hire experienced salespeople and you're managing 15 of them and they have 15 different languages. And this guy's got to manage 15 different languages because they have different sales processes.
I understand. I've seen a lot of companies do that. I'm a big proponent of the CRM programs, the nurturing programs. And that's where, from my standpoint, I've installed 7 different ones, been database administrator on 4. I am a geek. When I was with Finova Capital as a lender, they paid for me to go back and get to work on my master's in e-commerce and internet technology, as well as I had to learn how to build computers and do work in DBase and SQL and whatever to build my automated processes because I didn't have a Rolodex. Well, salespeople need the tools to get them in the right place at the right time to have the opportunity to discuss
sell to the right
sell.
people.
That's right.
Using the right process.
And that's where a CRM program for me has been very successful in the past. And I know you said something about technology that you really don't want to get into technology, but technology does have some necessary evil skills that are really good.
It's kind of like salespeople. We're necessary evils.
Well, and unfortunately, I'm going to address that quickly and I'm going to bring it back to you. Too many companies look at their salespeople as necessary evil. I got to have a salesperson so I can get some sales.
Yeah.
Well, I don't make them prima donnas. I want to make them equal team members, and that we have mutual respect, that they respect that I've got to help them get it delivered, have the product for them, have it identified, whatever we do, but I've got to have them sell that product or service so that I've got a business. So they're equal team members. How do you get team members working together as a team?
I think the sales culture has to match the company culture. And if that is a helpful intent, our company is dedicated to helping our customers move to wherever they want to move, whatever your benefit was in that little role play there. The sales culture has to match that. And oftentimes, I think that wild ducks, as we call them at IBM, you have these mavericks, or as we call them in Texas, these cowboys that play by their own rules. Those kind of people gravitate towards sales. But I promise you, if you hire one of those guys, you got to hire 2 people to pick up the dead bodies they leave behind.
No doubt.
So
No
there's
doubt.
got to be some management and some accountability and some process within the process to manage those people to keep them on task. You want the hard charger. You want the thoroughbreds, but you've got to rein them in occasionally.
You just hit one of my favorite sayings. I'd rather try to manage one stallion than 10 mares. And at one point in my career, I had 1,200 people reporting to me, and 600 of those were
Heck of a
salespeople.
birthday list.
600 of those were salespeople.
Ooh.
Now, obviously, direct reports, there was a growth to that.
Yeah.
We started at 67 employees and grew to 1,200. Well, that's when I had the opportunity to learn how to market. And then all of that was requiring that a salesperson worked in the warehouse. The warehouse worked on the sales floor. The accounting person did all of those functions as well. Had to do it for a week to find out what the FUDs are. Fears, uncertainty, and doubts, what the problems are that they're going to run into. Help them be less critical of the mistakes that are going.
Yeah.
And my top salespeople, at one point, we were actually hiring people to do all their paperwork because I'd rather them out selling, turn it over and let somebody else clean it up, because
Yep.
I could pay a very nominal amount for an admin person to do that. Sales is the name of the game. Now, let me ask you, what are the opportunities that the entrepreneurs are moving towards right now that they can pivot and go with?
Once again, the technology is in place to do that. They have a chance to connect with people, and everybody in the last 13 months, I believe, have settled down into this virtual. The biggest strength moving into this COVID thing was my greatest weakness, and that was the technology. Because for 36 years, I'd been a stand-up in-class instructor.
Stand-up comedian?
Well, they stand. Sometimes I stand and they laugh before I say anything. But I was in an environment that was teaching in face-to-face, and now we turn. So use the technology. Find a way that works in your environment for your sales, and listen to your salespeople. Ask them what they need. But that environment with the technology now works. I make fun of the technology because I don't understand it, but it's helped me tremendously. So the pivot, the adjustment, the switching, whatever we're doing, I think we're primed to get, sooner than later, to get to more face-to-face. But in the meantime, I think that most people are trying to take advantage of the virtual. And for the most part, I think that they make great strides. And when I started 13 months ago reviewing and researching all this, there was a lot of etiquette and a lot of backdrop. They don't care anymore. We're used to the fact that the dog's going to walk in your picture, the cat's going to do something.
Yes.
And unless it's in a high formal meeting, it's okay. We can get by with that. So I think what entrepreneurs are doing now is they need to replace themselves because they have been the chief salesperson. And if you read Gerber, they talk about the three things, you can't do them all. So as you said, you hire a sales team, you get them ready, you drive the ship. You're the one that has to be the pointer, that we're going in this direction. But hiring good people around that, training them, making them self-sufficient is so important. That hasn't changed at all.
Well, it hasn't. I found in most companies, and unfortunately, most of them don't stop and evaluate best practices. This works, it works better than this, etc.
Well, where does a process break down? That's the whole thing. That's what you need. You're always examining that. Whether it be the salesperson, him or herself, the sales manager, the sales leadership, but somebody has to examine.
How did you get good at that?
I had a process, and it took me 4 or 5 processes to get to the one that I think is valuable. Because the second to last process, I left out one of the most important ingredients, and that was to avoid the number one mistake. Again, I'm offering him a solution before Tabor knows he has a need. So I was skipping in my 7 steps, I was skipping that confirm the need stage where I didn't confirm the need that you wanted something. So I make a presentation and you're saying, I don't want that, I got that. Why are you showing me this? And then I've elongated the sales cycle and I've upset a client.
All right, one of the things that I have brought up in all of my meetings because I think it's important, and I'm sharing this, video has become the primary way of getting a message across. You can do it in 30 seconds, 3 minutes, 30 minutes, etc. But there's so much that can be conveyed with that. And then video lasts forever. You see something today that was done 2 years ago and is fresh to you. What are you doing in the video world to expand and make your business more productive?
Let me give you a little bit of an evolution. Back in the day, I was handwriting postcards. I had postcards with my logo on there. And after a sales meeting, I'd get in the car and I'd write this, I'd drive to the nearest post office, I'd stamp it, and I'd put it in. And it's amazing how many people call me and say, hey, thanks for the note. Or I'd go to their office and it'd be on their credenza. A handwritten note. Fast forward till the day. You've got all kind of power. I mean, how many platforms can you go to, get in your car, put your phone in front of you and say, really enjoyed the meeting, look forward to working with you. I'll get back with the proposal by close of business today. And that's 20 seconds. And it's all kind of opportunities that we haven't looked at in the past that are available to us. And even though we don't look good on camera, we don't have a great background, they don't care. It's just like a handwritten note. It doesn't matter if I could calligraphy. They appreciated a handwritten note. They appreciate taking the time. We were leaving a tractor dealership up in Oklahoma. We pulled out of the parking lot at the stop sign. My sales buddy was with me. I said, let's do a selfie and we'll send it to Warren. So sure enough, boom, we get a call 20 minutes down the road. Warren said, hey, thanks for that. Look forward to it. Click.
All done.
You have availability that we're not using.
Well, and one circle I'm going to do in that, I go to Prestonwood Baptist. We're a little church that has about 40,000 members. And that church had an outreach that was pretty regional around here. Well, with COVID, all the issues with that, they went very heavily on the video aspect and the promotion of that. From that evolution, they're now in 40 different countries every Sunday. They range anywhere from 600,000 to over 1.5 million viewers every Sunday. reaching people. Well, that is also a testimony for that opportunity, but it's a testimony to us of how we can get out and go.
It's powerful.
Last question for you. Gratitude. What do you have gratitude for?
I've been married 51 years. It's been the best 29 years of her life. I was in a company for 29 years at the Ziegler Corporation. Zig lived gratitude every day. And that was part of his philosophy, certainly part of the culture. I've had so many people that have helped me over the years to be successful. In sports, I had all those people. In school, I had all those people. But in sales, I've had so many people that have touched my life in a number of ways. Zig would say that the number one emotion to get people going is the gratitude, to be thankful, to be humble enough to be thankful for something. And I believe that is so true, because I think gratefulness also leads to humility. And sometimes we read our press clippings, sometimes we get a little bit ahead of ourselves, but being grateful kind of grounds you and gives you a foundation. So there's a lot of things in my life that I'm grateful for, from people to people that I haven't seen in a while, that have impacted me, and I don't think I'm enough.
I understand. Well, the sign off for our show, for CEO Talks, happens to come from Zig Ziglar. Said the more you're grateful for what you have, the more you have to be grateful for. Yep. And I truly believe that. We are grateful for you for tuning in. We're grateful for you sharing some of your time with us. We hope some of the ideas that have been put on the table here for sales are beneficial. We ask that if you need to have that sales team put together, you need more revenue, how many of you don't, then Bryan Flanagan is someone that can help your team grow. So let us know what you think. We'll be passing this out, posting it. Come back to us and let us know, and we'll put you in touch with Bryan. For today, Paul Whitley, CEO Talks, C-Suite Support. Have a great day. Take care.